G'day, g'day, and welcome to the Earth Restorer's Guide to Permaculture fundraising party. This is an exciting time, and my name's Charlie Mgee. I'm just here to play a little bit of opening music for you. This is an exciting time, and my name's Charlie Mgee, and I'm just here to play a little bit of opening going already. So let's try and get rid of that. It's an exciting time, and my name's Charlie Mgee, and I'm just here to play a little bit of opening. Wow, I'm in a loop. So let's try and get rid of that. It's an exciting time, and my name's Charlie Mgee, and I'm just here to play a little bit of opening. This is all part of the show. This is like Mal Webb looping his beatboxing. I'm back. All right. Well, that was fun. Note to self, don't put the streaming YouTube link up on your screen while you're trying to stream. Primitive man struggles with technology. But anyway, as I was saying, welcome to the Earth Restorer's Guide to Permaculture. Rosemary Morrow's book, seminal permaculture text, relaunch. It's being relaunched from the Earth User's Guide, which about 10 years ago I picked up as the first serious book I'd read about permaculture, and it's actually what made me want to go and study permaculture more deeply. So this is a pretty exciting thing for me to be here with you all today to celebrate the relaunch. In fact, to celebrate raising the funds to relaunch this book. This is an independent book which is coming out through Melliodora Publications, and we need your help to make it happen. So I'm here to share some music with you. And before I do, I'd just like to acknowledge the Yinjibarndi country that I'm currently on in the Pilbara, and I'd invite you to acknowledge wherever you are as well. I think it's an important thing. Ngarlaman Yinjibarndi country, I'm sorry. So wherever you are, with whoever country you're on, the first people, if you know who they are, just share where that is and who they are with the group here in the chat. We'd love your comments, and we'd love to share them up here on the screen as well. If you know who the first people are or who they were before the next lot of people came, go back as far as you can and just give an acknowledgement and a bit of a thought of gratitude to all the earth care and the people care and the fair share that they've given to the land. So anyway, oh, we got Roban. That's just up the road. We've got Gippsland, Gunai Country, Nukunu, Gadigal, Gubby Gubby, Wiradjuri, Wairudjeri. Beautiful. Keep them coming, folks. I'm going to start with a little song just while we trickle in, all about the three ethics of permaculture, which are earth care, people care, and fair share. So this one's called Earth, People, Fair. It's from my album of the same name. And it's a bit of a manifesto for permaculture, I think. I want to see myself as a part of the whole, grow some food for my family food bowl, stand my ground but give up control, know the boundaries but tear down all the walls, won't give up or give in to apathy, gonna plant a tree then plant another 3,000, now's the time to start feeding my soul, feeding the soil, believing anything is possible. As I get older, some things become clearer. The end of my life is always getting nearer. Focusing on the things that bring meaning. Food, community, love, and healing. You're getting tired of all this moving around. Want to bring it back home to a simple piece of ground. Been talking about it till my mouth is dumb. But all I want to do is make a deeper connection with some earth, people, fair. Yeah, I've been looking for the earth, people, fair, yeah. Well, show me where to find the earth, people, fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've got Bunurong country, we've got Quandamuka country, we've got Burramanagal, a stray alien wandering this ancient land. So much of the dream that I still don't understand. Been looking at you, but I'd rather see you and follow the path of that old dark emu. Someday my body's gonna breathe its last. Yeah, I'm aware that this too shall pass. But till then, I'll keep singing to the open air, hoping there's time to advance. Earth, people, fair. Earth, people, fair. Hey, yeah, get together with you. Earth, people, fair. Yeah. We've got Kondamuka, Mianjin, Durbil, and Yagara. Thanks for sharing, folks. It's about time for me to move over. But first, I'd just like to thank our major project partner, the Permaculture Education Institute, and our other partners, Beekeeping Naturally, Milkwood, and everyone who's been a supporter of this book. And thanks especially to Melliodora Publications for giving it another run. It's an incredibly important book. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to some people who need no introduction, but someone who's influenced me a whole heap from reading her book, Earth User's Guide to Permaculture, back in 2009, which is now being re-released as Earth Restorer's Guide to Permaculture. Rosemary Morrow, and fresh from the Logies, your very own favourite television host from Gardening Australia, Costa Georgiadis. How you going?
Here we go, Charlie. I'm just getting the wheels of steel working here so that I can bring everyone in, particularly the star of the show tonight, who is Ro, of course. Man, lovely to see you, and thanks for that fantastic musical start to the evening. What a great way to get things going.
It's such a pleasure.
Now, I just seem to have lost Ro. We've
lost Ro. No, she'll be back.
So hopefully she will come back into the room. I'm not sure what happened to our connection there, but I don't know if you can help me out anywhere there, Osti. But we have lost Ro.
Well, just before you find Ro, I'd just like to again acknowledge the incredible work that she's done over her career as a permaculturist, and she's been really instrumental in social permaculture, which is what I'm a lot about through music. And the Earth Restorer's Guide was a book that really just captured my imagination, and her text, along with Rob Alsop's illustrations, is what just brought me into this creative world of permaculture and made it really apparent that it's not just about earth care, it's about the whole picture. And I just want to acknowledge this amazing book that we're launching, or fundraising for tonight, crowdfunding, and yeah, just how excited I am to be a part of it. So thanks for having me, and I hope we have Ro with us soon. Is she? Any sign of her?
I've got Rob there. Catherine, I don't know who Catherine is. Morag. Yeah, well, look, while we wait for her to come on, I think something that's really important to acknowledge about this whole process and the project so far is that it is about on country publishing. This is about producing the rewrite, the updated version of the book, to the fact that it's being printed here through Melliodora. It's a really important element of everything that permaculture is about, isn't it?
Because it originally was being published in the UK, I think, but we're bringing it back home. This is a homecoming of sorts, isn't it? It's like the ashes. It's like the ashes of permaculture are coming home. So it's a moment to be celebrated.
Well, look, I'm just thinking, Rob's here, and Rob did the wonderful illustrations in the first book. So, I mean, for everyone listening, we were going to speak to Ro first up and then bring Rob into the conversation, but I don't see why we can't mix it up, given we've got a problem, and bring Rob in to chat, and then when Ro joins us, for whatever technical reason that's happening with the Blue Mountains reception, we can bring Ro in and just flip it a little bit. So for those of you, if you have a look at the front of the book here, you'll see Rosemary Morrow, illustrations by Rob Alsop. This version that I have is the second edition, and it was printed, I looked at this earlier, it was printed in 2006. And the interesting thing to bear in mind is that basically the book now is in its third decade. and who better to bring on while we're here waiting for Ro than Rob. So let me bring Rob in.
Well, I'll catch you later, Costa.
Hello, Costa.
Yes. Hello, Rob. Thanks, Charlie.
Hello, Costa. Hello, Costa. How are you?
I'm really well. Rob, how are you?
I'm going well, thanks. I'm having a little bit of trouble here too, I'm afraid. I've lost our camera and I can't see you, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. I'll go to full screen, and I'll do some what I can do is some what we call active listening, and
Okay.
I'll just be here and I'll be active in my listening and fill the screen. So Rob, take us back for those of us listening in, particularly for many people that mightn't know the book or that have seen the book, that have read the book, but they don't know the background. Tell us a little bit. Take us back to 1996 when all this was taking place, how your connection with Ro came about, and how you incubated the early stages of the Earth Users Guide.
That's taking it back a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's nice to set the context.
Yeah, look, I remember when Rosemary was first talking about writing a book, and I'd only not long done my PDC, my Permaculture Design Certificate, with her. And I think, it was when I was doing that course, as I was taking notes, I was also drawing lots of things just to remind myself, and they were just little scribbles, not much at all. But afterwards, when Ro was talking about writing the book, she asked me, she said, "Oh, look, would you like to have a go at drawing the pictures for this book?" And we didn't want to go down the way of colour photographs, and just wanted to keep it very simple, black and white. And one of the reasons that was originally was because, well, one, for cost, to keep the cost of the book as low as possible, so it made it accessible for as many people as possible. But also there was always in the back of Ro's mind, I think, this idea that it could be used in overseas in developing countries. And of course, if anyone who's been to particularly Asia, which is where we both had experience, you'll find thatched shacks in every village with photocopy machines, and they'll happily photocopy and bind very loosely any book you care to bring them. And so the idea was that a book with line drawings in, very simple, would be one that was very easily able to be reproduced overseas as well. So that's a bit of where that began, that tradition of the line drawings, and it's continued right through from the second edition and now the third edition.
And what was the brief for you in terms of this edition, the change across from Earth Users Guide to Earth Restorers Guide? What was the lens change from the illustrator's point of view? Seems to have lost Rob as well, for whatever reason that may be. Wow, there's nothing better than just, I think maybe, Charlie, we might throw to a song. I'm ready.
I'm ready. That's what I'm here for. Quick, the technology dropped out again.
I'm at the news presenter's desk. There's nothing going on the screen behind me. I have to keep forging on. And what better thing to do in a dilemma than to turn to a bit of music? So Charlie, I'm going to just throw it your way while we see what's happened to our superstars.
Look, you're not above pushing yourself to the limit, Costa. I take my hat off to you. Half of my hat. So I think this exemplifies the permaculture principle of using edges and valuing the marginal. We seem to be riding the edge of our technological capabilities right now. And it's actually, it's something that I really love because it pushes you to sort of improvise and come up with new innovations, which of course is what permaculture is all about. So I'll play this little song while we find Ro and Rob, and hopefully we'll be back to our regular programming in a second. Some people tell me that I'm crazy because I do things that don't fit in to the rest of society. Like my love of small spaces, my room ain't too large. I just live in a box on the back of a truck parked outside of the car park in Karratha. But the edge is where it's at, and it's easy to create. And my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. Well, I've been looking to settle down, yeah. Find someplace nice where I can get my hand on some marginal land and turn it into paradise. Well, the smaller the better. And I don't even care if it's bad. I guess I'm the kind of fella who will always be a fringe dweller. Just do the best I can with what I have. Because the edge is where it's at. Yeah, we gotta work that interface. Cause my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. Well, I might wind up in the desert. Hello. With whipping wind and sun. But I'll just plant me a hedge, and I'll start that edge, and I'll have sort of two things with one. Whoa, but if that rain is a-falling, rock is washing everything away, well, I'll slow down that water with a convoluted border, and everything gonna be okay. Because the edge is where it's at, and it can be the most productive place. Cause my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. Break it down like a good compost. Now, everyone out there, I want you to make a pledge to acknowledge the edge. Grow some veg and stack it on a ledge. Cause wherever things come together, you'll find it getting better. You fall so in love with the edge, you'll want to write it a love letter. Just broaden your range at the place of exchange. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Cause there's every single color sitting between white and black. And a well-beaten path ain't no ways the right track. Cause the edge is where it's at. And we're all living on the edge right now, where we're gonna see some change, see some things get rearranged, moving on cause there's no going back. I said the edge is where it's at, and we've got no more time to waste. Cause my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. Yeah, my mama always said, if you're not living on the edge, then you're taking up too much space. That's right, she did. And that song was off the album Permaculture, A Rhymer's Manual, which was inspired by books such as Earth Restorer's Guide to Permaculture, based on David Holmgren's book, Permaculture, Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability. But it's this kind of stuff that inspires music and art and other things like that me and my partner Brennan Quinlan are engaged in. So, yeah, again, just want to acknowledge how fantastic it is that this book's getting re-released. And I've just seen on the chat that we are $500 away from reaching our target. of 30,000 for printing this book on country here in Australia at Melliodora Publications. And that's a bit of a landmark moment because it's coming home. It's being printed locally, ethically, and published by a small independent permaculture publisher. So get in there, follow the links, and support any way you can. If you can chuck $5, great. If you can chuck $20, awesome. If you chuck $100, you're a legend. And this is all a group effort. This is people care, bringing a very important permaculture book into existence again. So I don't know if we've found Ro yet.
Yeah, we've actually, Charlie, Charlie, we've found Rob, so we can go back to Rob.
Woohoo!
And continue on. So I'll bring Rob back in. Rob, welcome back, and we've got the visual this time.
Yeah, thanks, Costa. I don't know where you lost me last time.
Yeah, somewhere between the pen and ink lines of your illustrations. So you basically just told us about how you went for the black and white drawings, and then we kind of lost you at about that point. So yeah, if you just want to continue on from where you were.
Yeah, well, look, I've perhaps in retrospect, I've thought a lot about these line drawings too, and it's not as common in books these days. Most books these days have great color photos and things like that, and color photos are terrific, because they really give you a clear picture of something. But what I realized with the line drawings, we're often trying to get quite different sort of concepts across to people and illustrate different concepts. And often it's very hard to get photos of those things. And what I find I can do is I can add all the elements that I want I can make up an imaginary landscape or make up an imaginary scene with all those elements that are involved in that concept or the idea, and which is something you can't always do in a photograph. And so with the line drawings, yes, I can really create my own world in a sense and include all those things that we're trying to show people and tell people.
And what was your role with the updated version? What were some of the things that you've added to the new release in terms of the Earth Restorer's Guide?
Okay, well, I think one of the main things that Ro and I talked about before she actually started penning the manuscript, and we're just in discussions, Rosemary was very clear about making the book more global because of the needs around the world. And so she asked me to really try and draw illustrations that were more broad or global, that people from other countries and cultures might understand. I think, I don't know if you heard me say this before, but I think the original book, Earth User's Guide 1, was a very sort of Australian or Western orientated book. In fairness, we did try and include some illustrations from other cultures. And in the second edition, we included more. But in this new book, we've really tried to broaden that illustration base and make it not just Western or Australian, but really try to include illustrations that people from other cultures might be able to recognize or feel comfortable with. So that includes things like use of different animals from other cultures, trying to draw people who don't look so Western in a sense. And I think we've also tried very hard this time to look at the urban areas. And so there's quite a lot more illustrations surrounding sort of urban areas, be that cities, inner cities, sort of peri-urban areas, things like that, because there is with cities growing all the time, one of the early permaculture principles was bring food productions back to the city. So it's not new, but I think it's becoming more and more important all the time as cities grow. So we would really try to look at that whole urban area and inner city sort of high-rise building and urban and dense population sort of areas.
I mean, a picture tells 1,000 words, and when you think about the scope and reach of Ro's work, to have a book that people can flick through and read the story through the illustrations, your role is such an integral part of a user guide, because a user guide is that sort of thing that people lean on and return to over and over.
That's true. And one of the things that Ro was very strong with in this edition was that she wanted as little or no text as possible in the drawings, in the illustrations. So the illustrations really had to speak for themselves. And this is quite challenging for me. I kept wanting to write text on them. But so that's something we've tried really hard to do, is to make the pictures stand alone, really. And hopefully they not only illustrate the text, but they might add a little bit extra that Ro hasn't put in the text, or I've often put things in that Ro didn't really ask for. So how many?
Yeah.
I think Jess, our editor, counted about 340. So it's up quite a few from the last editions. And I mean, quite in awe how the Melliodora team managed to fit them all in. I thought they wouldn't all make it in, but I think pretty much they did.
Wow. I mean, we're gonna speak to Jess shortly, but yeah, that's a lot of words condensed into illustrations, and having recently been involved with a book, you realize how you can say so much with a good illustration, and as you said, that restraint, that whole idea of not filling the picture with words.
Yeah, it does make it quite a challenge, because I guess you have to be really aware of what people are seeing in the illustration. I mean, as the illustrator, I think it might look fine, and I can see everything, and I know what I'm trying to get across. But like anything that needs editing, you need another set of eyes, or more than one set of eyes, to look at it and tell you, well, actually, I don't really get that, or can you make that a little bit clearer? So yes, that's the challenge, and it's always good to have some good editors and proofreaders and other people to look, just to give you a hand with that.
Well, Rob, thank you for sharing those insights with all of us. I can see in the green room here that Ro has arrived. Technology
that's good.
Been good to us. And Ro, big welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Costa. It's lovely to see so many people here. Big hug, Costa. Haven't seen you.
Back at you, Ro.
To drop in and have that big conversation one night when you're up here. Hey, can I comment on Rob? I'd say to Rob, we want a site analysis, a sector analysis for a 40-story building. And we're all used to doing a sector analysis on the ground, but we wanted a vertical one. The winds are stronger, the updrafts are worse, the views are magnificent, and Rob would go, always this, like the artist always. And then he'd go and do it. And then I'd say, we want a good rubbish heap. So I'd have this massive rubbish heap. And when the drawing came back, there'd be a cat chasing a rat across the rubbish heap. So there's a lot of whimsy in the drawings. But the cover of the first book was of a windbreak. of the first edition. And in Vietnam, someone said to me, oh, that's a very good brick-making factory. And it was a farmer with a wheelbarrow and some wood and a cow and trees and the smoke blowing from the cottage, and all the Westerners knew someone was collecting their wood and burning more because they had no windbreak. All the people in Asia thought it was a brick factory and you had to cut down more trees. So we got pretty careful at checking the drawings. So Middle East has flat roofs and very snowy areas have those roofs. And we got a bit more particular, knowing how people culturally interpret drawings. It was quite a journey, Rob, wasn't it? And then Jessica had something to say too about the drawing. I think that people would say to me, oh, I loved your book. That drawing of compost was marvellous. And I'd go, what about the text? And that other drawing, so-and-so, was just gorgeous. And I'd go, I think the text's just there to carry the drawings, really. And make a great book in drawings afterwards, and people, if they're a bit bored, could look up the text. Just a thought.
Just while we're at this little break, I'll just make a note that we have reached the 30K mark of the fundraiser, and a big shout out to everyone, those who have contributed this evening, and also anyone who's contributed before this evening to reaching that 30K. And I've been told that budget can increase to 40K in order for the book to reach out to the US as well, and actually see Australian printed books reaching the world as well. So big thanks to everyone, and feel free to continue to contribute as we move through this evening. So Ro, I asked Rob, I suppose in a sense, the question I asked you, just for the point of our listeners and our guests tonight, casting yourself back to 1996 and the intent and the vision and the projections. What was your goal with setting it up as a user's guide? How did you structure the book in terms of the knowledge that you'd acquired, and then that challenge of getting it down into something like this?
Yeah, so I'd been teaching for 10 years, Costa, starting in Vietnam and across Cambodia mainly, East Timor perhaps. And I was aware that the way people were teaching, perhaps it didn't, I've got this understanding of learning that you learn through depth and you learn through breadth, and you need to repeat things. So if you start off talking about climate and water, you bring in water at home, water for the rural area, water and trees, and you keep modifying it all the time so that water comes back in many different ways, and it's a weaving process getting deeper and broader. Now, I can't see you, Costa, so I don't know if something's happened to my...
No, I've just put you as the star.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well, that's a bit embarrassing. So the thing was to pick up these main themes. And when we talk about systems, people often don't really get it, that it means you're dealing with multiple variables. And as an agricultural scientist, I deal with reduction of silos. So now I saw permaculture was a weaving process. In comes your water, in comes your land, in comes your wind, and they're both modified by the plant. And how can you have to present a certain amount of information first. Maybe just about the land, slope and aspect, and then you have to keep feeding on these really variables of the environment, but they are permanent, but dynamic permanent. So you've got your winds and you've got your gravity, and you're constantly bringing it together in a way that people can understand what they're dealing with. So that was the first book, was just simply provide a flow that got broader and deeper, bringing topics back. By the second book in 2006, I was pretty sure of what was needed. And by this book, I just spent 10 years or more in war zones and and in refugee camps. And so I suddenly hit me, permaculture as we teach it is colonial. And it was marvellous having Jessica, because she's got a global viewpoint and understands what colonial means, saying, plant something outside your back door and this is your backyard. I would think 60% of the people in the world don't have a backyard. They do in Europe, they do in America, they don't much in India, they don't much in Asia. So, you know, who's got what? And permaculture will die if it's only for those who have got this amount of land, who can do it in this way. So it really was a big stretch, Costa. Let's see what happens when you've got a township of tents and containers. Let's see what happens when you've got 80-story buildings. Let's see what happens if permaculture will apply to these situations. If it doesn't, then let's scrap it and develop a new thing called permaculture, which is slightly changed. Over to you. I'm talking too much.
No, you're not talking too much. You're exactly the reason we're all here today to talk about this. Just a little correction there. The printing of the US versions will, of course, happen in the US, not here in Australia. But we're printing the Australian versions here. But I'll bring Jess in a sec, Robert. You know, in part 4 of the book, you talked about design for disasters, managing pests, living with wildlife, weeds, aquaculture, and the water permaculture. I mean, you think 30 years on, every single one of those topics could not have a bigger spotlight on them. And here they were, you know, in chapter 4, something that you were throwing the blanket over and saying, these are things we need to look for. And today, I mean, in terms of the Earth Restorers Guide, they're like the top issues.
Yes, that's right, Costa. You've nailed it. That's right. And things like the mouse plague and things like the locusts in India, they are bigger than ever before, and they're going to be bigger again. So that we used to think if we do zones 0 to 5, those 6 zones, we're roughly there. However, those zones are weak, and 2 things have happened. First, we have to work together with others. You can't just do your backyard and say, I'll be fine, because you won't. And third, these other things, such as disaster and pests and being able to do more with water, are what are going to work to make it more resilient. And I think the word resilient was probably very early use of that word at that time, more resilient, more sustainable. And today I would change windbreaks completely. I'd say that we need to change windbreaks from being 2-row and 3-row to being forests, because the winds are going to be stronger, the dust will be worse. As we know, the cold is more severe. So we have to thicken and densify those things. And I think someone said to me the other day, I don't think we need zone 5. And I said, hang on. In most countries, zone 5's your indigenous, local, endemic plants. They're the only ones that are going to evolve under changing conditions. Whether it's the pests or whether it's changing climate, your indigenous, local ones. So we need to increase these zones, because we won't find the bacteria and the insects and the birds living in artificial environments as they did once, nor involving as ecosystems. Many things have become more precious and more valuable in retrospect. But, you know, now I almost feel disaster preparation and planning has to go into every design. And I say to people, where is your design for your most likely disaster? They do the topic, but if it's not there, and also they're not getting water back into the ground, into those aquifers, then I say, come on, add that extra dimension, because it must be there. I'll stop. Costa, you've got some great comments.
Oh, well, look, I thought it would be appropriate to bring Jess in here as your editor. Let me bring Jess in. Here she is. Here she is. Good evening, Jess.
Hey, everybody. How you going?
Hi, Jess.
Good.
Very well. Cold in Sydney.
Yeah, it is a little bit, isn't it? But we can't talk. Now, Jess, you know, give us a little bit of an insight into what it was like working as, you know, editing for someone like Ro. What, you know, such a big project. How did you find an anchor point, you know, almost a peg in the ground from which to compile everything from such a streamer of consciousness and vision?
It's a great question, and Rose laughing.
I can't give you an easy one.
Rose laughing here because she's worried about what my answer is going to be, I think. I think it was difficult coming to this because I mean, Ro is just such a legend in this field, and I come in as a great fan. And, you know, it was really, really hard because, you know, you're coming in as someone who's just thinking, wow, I've looked up to this woman for so long, and I've been reading her books, been following her work. And to just come in and not have these star kind of eyes and think, oh, I've got to look at this with clear eyes, you know, it's really difficult. So I don't know. I think it was Ro herself. She's so down to earth, and she's so humble, and she really just doesn't have this kind of star thing going on. You know, first thing she said was, you know, I hope you find my writing readable, and I hope you can work with me, and, you know, please bear with me. And I just said, absolutely, you know, I'm here for you. But, you know, this book is so well established. And yeah, it was just a matter of, it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard at all. Once I got to know her, she was just so down to earth and so easy. And I already knew Rob, so that was fantastic. We had met through the Asylum Seeker Centre garden in 2006. So yeah, we were. I
remember that.
We had started a garden there, and Rob was our key designer. And that was before I knew anything about permaculture. So Rob actually taught me about permaculture. I bought Ro's book, read her book for years and years and years, and then 10 years later, I became her editor and worked with Rob. So it was incredible.
Yeah, I'd like to say that it was wonderful having Jessica as an editor, because I needed someone with a global approach. Someone who, when I would say something like, we can't use that, it's too Western or it's too colonial, Jess would say, I know, I've got it. And it was also someone I could pick up the phone and say, look, you want to use the word climate change, I'd like to use climate crisis. And we might settle for global warming, but we could discuss terms in language, and also the three of us, we could always stop and talk about refugees because that's such a big thing. But it was really having Jeff's long experience, 25 years working with the Australian Geographic or National Geographic, working in science. Nothing was questioned, but everything that I put in was evidence-based, and everything Rob drew was evidence-based. But if the editor doesn't know enough, they say things like, why would you do that? And what? I know, here's one. If you've got grey water, feed it to your goats. Someone read it and their shriek of horror came back to me, and then you must feed your goats clean water. And I said, not in Afghanistan, they're lucky to get water. You know, you pass your grey water on to your goats and they're happy to get it. So getting global, getting to understand what could be possible. It was great, Jess.
Thank you. It was a real privilege to work with you, Ro.
Yeah.
always just, she just kept us, we were all on the same level. There were no hierarchies, or there was no ego. Some books you get and the author is all ego, you do grammar, spelling, that's it. That wasn't this book. We discussed big picture ideas. We're always having these great big conversations about massive global issues and thinking, how are we going to solve these massive global issues? And it was really exciting because everything you talk about goes into the book. And then other people pick up this book and then perhaps they'll use those ideas, or perhaps they'll reflect something coming from a traditional culture, which Ro has taken on and put in the book. And then all of a sudden it gets even bigger and bigger. So it was a really exciting project to work on.
Yeah, and the one little thing I wanted to add there in terms of that broad scale, you worked with the Stockholm Global Boundaries. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, Jess, what did you think when I said we want to work with the Stockholm Boundaries?
Well, the first thing I did was I went and watched the documentary to get my head around it. There is a documentary on Netflix, so that made life easier. So for those who don't know about it, Ro, perhaps you might like to explain the boundaries, perhaps?
I'll let you do it, Jess.
Okay. So the Stockholm Resilience Centre has come up with these 9 global boundaries, which if we cross as a human race, and we are crossing them as a human race, we go beyond that boundary and we get into trouble. So, for example, CO2. Once we cross that 350 parts per million boundary, and we have crossed that, we're at 415, I think, the Earth starts to get into a point where it starts tipping. We get to a tipping point. And once we get to that tipping point, all of Earth's systems are affected. And we may not be able to draw back from that tipping point. So the Stockholm Centre came up with these 9 points, these 9 boundaries, which we must not go past. So what Ro did was she worked them into the book. And we realised as we were working them through the book that actually on every single one of these tipping points, permaculture has action. And we don't need to sit back and wait for governments to, legislate on these things. We can actually go to each tipping point and say, actually, as a group, if we were to get together, we could do something about this, and that's quite an extraordinary realization.
I think, Jess, I realised that when Mollison and Holmgren started permaculture way back in the 70s, very early days, they listed what they called world problems, and they became global challenges. They had a variety of vocabulary, but you start there and you say, these are the things that this book or course is trying to come to terms with. Now, they were nearly identical to planetary boundaries. And the only thing they didn't have was the marine, which is critically important, but things like, yes, you said, deforestation, soil loss, potable water, you name it. I put Morrison Holmgren list down, and then I put the Stockholm planetary boundaries, and I realised that they'd been there 30, 40 years before. And so they hadn't listed them as boundaries. If you break it, other things will collapse. But they really had been prescient in naming the stuff that today we're becoming familiar with. And if there are any teachers here, this is what we've been teaching for years. So it's all sort of come together over this time, or many things have, and certainly the planetary boundaries have. And, my council uses them to see if they're breaking planetary boundaries. It's very interesting.
Now, at this point, we're going to have a little interlude and hear from some of our project partners. So I'm just going to call up our project partner. So Jess, Ro and Rob, if you want to take a moment in the green room, and I'm going to call Morag up, who's here.
Okay.
Can I stay in case I get lost in the advertising for the StreamYard as I did before?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no one. That's
Okay.
perfectly okay. It's actually lovely because we want you around. All right. So let me bring Morag in. Good evening, Morag.
Hi, Costa, and I'm so glad you're staying in the room, Ro. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can't push you out on this night. I think that's a very good point. Morag, welcome to this evening, and can you explain where Permaculture Education Institute is sitting as far as being a partner? What inspired the Permaculture Education Institute to get involved with the project?
Look, everything that Ro has written and shared with the world in permaculture has been so incredibly valuable. Like, I teach permaculture teachers around the world, excuse me, and I always share with them Ro's resources, every single booklet and resource that she creates, and everyone finds them so useful. So the fact that there's this new book that is taking to the edges of where permaculture is now. Hi, David. Is why we're supporting. Should we welcome David? Hi, David.
No, it's all right. Sorry, keep going.
So every time I run a permaculture design course, people are referred to Rosemary's the Earth Users Guide. Every time I teach permaculture teachers, I refer them to the Teacher's Guide. And I know that when I was even getting started as a teacher, I found it so absolutely useful and a way to build a sense of confidence that I was on the right track. And it was always there kind of beside me. So, and in more recent times, Ro and I have started forming such a beautiful relationship we talk a lot now, not nearly as much as what I hope we can, because we are doing similar things in the way of working with refugees and working with people on the edges, I suppose, of this work of permaculture. And we often talk about, well, what does permaculture mean in a refugee settlement, for example? How is it that we can support that? And so I heard Rob talking earlier about the importance of these black and white drawings. And I know, the way that Ro has really guided these drawings to be almost universal drawings that can be seen and understood no matter what culture or background you're from. And they don't really peg them into a particular place, that you can see them and then adapt them. And so what's happening is a lot of these kind of drawings that Ro shares in her books and the materials that are laid out really beautifully can be taken by someone in a refugee settlement and seen and very easily adapted. And so what we're seeing now in the refugee settlements that I'm working with in East Africa is that they're starting to draw up their own beautiful drawings. They see that, it makes sense to them, and now they're making their own posters. And the fact that they're saying that there's not too many words in them means that they're totally transferable. And it's just, they're universally beneficial to the people who are working in permaculture in areas that are well beyond, people who can afford to buy books, for example.
Oh, Morag, I love working with you. You know, of course, that Morag's work through IT teaching is breaking a new barrier. And she owes me a few lines for a report, which
yes, I do.
Yes, I know you are a partner in this, but thank you so much, Morag. I'm really glad that you are a partner in it and love working with you on every level. So this is just something wonderful about it. But again, no one ever remembers the text.
Right. I was trying to say in the midst of all that it's the structure that you give to it. It's the kind of the vessel that holds it all together, that you conceptualize things in a way that makes it so easy to grasp the complexity in something that seems really easy to transfer to someone else. Even if you're just new to it, you kind of pick up one of your books and it's like, oh yes, well, this makes sense. I get it. And I've heard that over and over and over again from students around the world. And I really resonated a lot with your work because particularly, you know, as I was learning to become a teacher, I was teaching in places where I wasn't teaching in English. I was teaching through translators. So I had to learn how to teach differently. Yeah. And I think that transformed the way. And so every time I hear you talk about how you teach, how you communicate, I think this is a particularly important part of our roles as kind of catalysts for change. It's not like we're leaders. It's just that we are here and trying to find ways to pass on the information most accessibly, which is why I've landed in this kind of IT world at the moment, how to support. At the moment, what we have is a group of young Perma youth groups all across East Africa refugee settlements who are sharing and learning together via digital technology, as well as supporting their local hubs, creating pop-up classrooms using digital information. And it's totally possible, this blended learning environment. And so I wanted to thank you to both of you who are on the screen now for supporting the Perma Youth, because those intergenerational conversations that were had with the Perma Youth, and you probably remember on those screens were a number of young people who were from refugee settlements with it. And the music, actually, I don't know if you remember some of the musicians from Kakuma refugee settlement. They got picked up by a group, foundation in America run by the Grateful Dead. If you ever remember the Grateful Dead band.
Yeah, Jerry Garcia.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they have funded a rammed earth, solar-powered, water-collecting, permaculture garden-surrounded music studio to create permaculture media. And that's then inspired camps all across East Africa to start doing the same thing. And so, you know, there's songs, there's dances, there's music, there's theatre. Just talking to a young girl tonight, actually, and she's wanting to create a permaculture TV show out of one of the camps to help ripple out. It's just fantastic.
I think one of the things is that permaculture multiplies itself. If you teach something somewhere, and I think the book is part of learning materials, we'll come back to Costa, it goes into, it's uncontrollable. It just moves out and it goes somewhere, it does something. There can be illegal translations. Rob's drawings appear coming back done by someone in China and copied. You know, all this happens. But as we don't own it, and as we want maximum scale up and uptake, it's the fact that you put it out, a fairly short, book or a couple of weeks course, and over the years, someone from Yemen ends up in Malaysia, ends up in Canada, rewriting information in Yemeni back into a war zone. That is the power of the knowledge of permaculture in all its modes and media. And I think whichever way we offer it, books, films, anything, it scales up. Probably, I don't think we need quality control. I just think we need to keep getting it out there.
And you know what I think is really helping too is when we get these global conversations, that through the local action, when we come back together and say, oh, well, I understood it this way, or oh, I see it this way, and we're sharing, I think this digital platform for the global and regional sharing of the application of it helps to build in that, I don't know, the quality control, for want of a better word. Like people get to see, oh, I could do it that way. That's even better. And people can start to share what they're doing, how they can improve it. And it's really, really making a difference.
Well, let's do that next time.
Yeah.
Huge results come in from 5 years teaching in refugee camps, and they've got to be finished by the 30th of June. So it's quite extraordinary. It's escaped, it's gone, it's all over the place, and it's also unpredictable. You couldn't write objectives. We will teach this course, and it's absolutely impossible. We will write this course and anything can happen, and it does. Okay, I'll go back to, I'm off track. Costa.
Now
Sorry.
on that note, not at all, Ro. On that note, I just want to announce that we are now nearing 31,500. So we've pushed through the initial goal, and we're heading towards that 40K mark very, very comfortably. So thank you to everyone who has contributed so far. And with such a little milestone being reached, I thought it's a perfect opportunity to go to a song. And I believe there is one person in the green room ready to join us. And take it away, Charlie.
Oh, hey, folks. This is awesome. I mean, you guys are just rocking it. Thanks to everyone who's been donating. 31.4K heading to the $40,000 mark. This just is testament to permaculture's strength, and, you know, the support that's behind it couldn't have come at a better time. The fact that we have this body of earth knowledge wrapped up in this word permaculture, you know, it doesn't even matter what it's called. The fact that there's this many people behind something like this is just incredible. You know, I remember reading in the designer's manual about a procreative asset versus a degenerative asset, and I think the Earth Restorer's Guide to Permaculture is a prime example of a procreative asset. There's no entropy in sight. This is only going to grow and grow. And so I want to play this song, which is actually the first song that I wrote inspired by permaculture, called No Such Thing as Waste.
Oh, yes.
Costa's favourite.
It is.
It's really just an expression of the inspiration that I got through permaculture, and the fact that I wanted to share it in a way that was accessible, you know, through music. So here we go. It's a true story about growing up in a mud brick shack in the southwest of WA. When I was a little kid, I liked to catch the rain. While my friends around the town let it flow right down the drain. But our tiny house in the trees had one thing that we drank. Every drop that we had saved in our rainwater tank. But there's no such thing as waste. Only stuff in the wrong place. I said there's no such thing as waste. When you treasure every trace. Then I moved to the city, rented a house on my way to buy a bed. But I saw one lying on the side of the road, so I took that one instead. And I also found a fridge, a couch, and a big old sewing machine in the biggest pile of thrown out stuff that I had ever seen. But there's no such thing as waste. Whoa, no. Only stuff in the wrong place. Yeah. I said there's no such thing as waste. Better save it just in case. Well, then down the track, I found out that diesel cars can run on veggie fat. So I bought a truck and hit the road, smelling like fish and chips. I rescued piles of wasted oil from the back of restaurants and said I'd be a fool if I bought my fuel and there's oil nobody wants. Now, like Morag was saying, the Perma Youth Project has been incredible, and the music element that's coming out of that is really exciting. I'm very privileged to have been a part of that, and I'm trying to translate some of my permaculture songs into other languages. So I'll see how we go with Spanish. Let's see. So, no such thing as waste. Tell me how I go. No hay tal como cosa la basura. Solo cosas en el mal lugar. ¿Cómo cosa? No hay tal cosa como la basura. There we go. Es una idea que hay que transformar. All right, I need to work on my Spanish. Because there's no such thing as waste. Well, no. Only stuff in the wrong place. No, there's no such thing as waste. You better save it just in case. Yeah. Now we gotta refuse, reuse, repair, and restore. Like an echo coming through. Refuse, reuse, repair, and restore. I just changed that for you guys, because there's no such thing as waste. Whoa, no. Only stuff in the wrong place. I said there's no such thing as waste. Only opportunity to be embraced. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Costa. And Ro. And Morag.
Thanks,
Ro. I just want to thank you personally, Ro, for all your inspiration I was saying before that I read that got me into permaculture. So thank you.
Thank you for all your music. It's lovely. We enjoy it everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, cheers.
Thanks, Charlie. And Morag, thank you for sharing all of the insights around your connection to the project as a support partner. We very much appreciate everything that you are putting into the Permaculture Education Institute and the support that you're putting behind the Earth Repairer's Guide to Permaculture. So feel free to come back in and join us at the end. I'm going to bring Rob and Jess back in, and we're going to continue the conversation. Let me just bring Rob and Jess back. There's Rob and Jess. Here she is. Yeah. Now, where were we? We're all back together here. Ro, what when you saw the need for the updated version, what was, I mean, coming up with the titles are interesting because they're not easy, and the Repairer's Guide, it's subtle, but it's a big change, and it's a pertinent change. When did that light bulb moment sort of strike you?
So the Earth Users Guide was my first publisher, and they took it to the Dusseldorf Book Fair, and they put up several titles, which apparently happens, and they got a vote. And the vote was for Earth Users Guide. But in an Australian context, a user isn't a very pleasant person. So I always felt uncomfortable about the title. And I thought the essence of permaculture is really to repair and restore. That's it. Now, by accident, I came across restorers. I love the acronym ERG, so it's a little measure of energy, that book. It's an ERG. And then I realised if it's an Earth Restorer's Guide, and by some peculiar coincidence, it is now the UN labelled the decade of ecosystem restoration. And what we're doing all the time is having a look at landscapes in society, seeing where they're failing or going to fail, identify them with our knowledge, whether it's water or socialisation or anything. And so we understand what we're dealing with, and then we move into restoration. So it's always a shame to me that people see it as growing lettuces. But if I were into sort of conspiracy theory, I'd think the big agriculturalists don't want us to know we'd like to get rid of their 10,000 acre monocultures and replace it with diverse landscapes. However, I'm not into it. I just think it's the flow of things and the way it's happened. So restoration and repair is really our job. And if you want something important to do in the world, we have to be part of it. But in analysing the situation first, it grabs your heart. You go out and you look at a soil and you can pretty soon see that it's terrible and you think, I can do something. Or you look at a water eroded landscape or a river that's a muddy ditches flowing through, and if you've got permaculture, analytic and observation, you can say that's terrible. We can do something about it. We know what to do. So I see those two parts as looking and perhaps feeling, though the book's tough on hard on evidence, and then knowing what to do appropriately. I think of the two parts of permaculture that make it so powerful.
Jess, is there anything you'd like to add to that in terms of having overseen this from your perspective as the editor?
I think one of our goals was to get some level of endorsement from the UN, and I think it's a real tribute to Ro and Ro's work that they have decided to back the book, which is massive, I think. To be endorsed by the UN just, I think, means a great deal. And I think it also means it's this restoration, this permaculture restoration, and the 40 years of practical application it's had, are going to go out into the world and, being endorsed by the UN, big deal. So, it's really exciting. It's really exciting. And I think it's a real testament to Rose's work that they've said, yeah, absolutely, we back this because this is what restoration's about. And this is a roadmap. There are so many issues in the world, and you watch the news and you think, oh my God, this is so difficult. How do we deal with this? And Rose looked at it, and when you look at the extension to what you've done since 2006, so since the second edition, we've had massive runaway climate change. We've had so many issues. We've had the Amazon is under real threat. Bill Mollison was talking about 40% tree cover, years and years and years ago, decades ago. And now they're saying, look, if the Amazon gets to 40%, we're in trouble. So, we've got 40 years of evidence-based practice here in this beautiful book. And it's updated now to this day and age with climate change, with all the challenges that we have going. And it's all in here. There's oceans as well now, which is absolutely fantastic. And as Rose said, critical. So if anyone's watching the news and feeling a bit down about things, what can I possibly do? Grab this book, get the latest edition, because it's even more pertinent to today.
Wow. Now, I've just while I stand here, I'll just make the announcement that we're closing in on $33,000, which is edging wonderfully towards that target of $40,000 to publish in the US. So big thanks to everyone who has contributed in the last 10 or 15 minutes to take it from just over 30 to 30 to almost 33. That is fantastic. Now we're going to, at this point, Ro and Jess and Rob, we're going to go to another little chat with one of our partners, one of our project partners, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome onto the screen Kushala from Natural Systems Permaculture. I'm just going to bring Kushala in, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Kushala.
Hi, everyone. Yes.
Hello.
Thank you.
Kushala, welcome. Tell me a little bit about how and why you became involved as a project partner.
Well, it was a pretty easy decision, Costa. I mean, I'm a kind of new kid on the block as far as, becoming a permaculture teacher in the last several years and being really, delving into permaculture practically and on the ground as well. And I found that particularly the Earth Users Guide, which I kind of always have nearby, when people ask me for, accessible books or ways to just, start getting into permaculture, this is always the one that I've recommended because it, like Morag was saying, it's so accessible, and just it's I don't know, there's just something really kind of intuitive about accessing it as well. So people do find it really easy to understand the concepts and the just get into the whole paradigm of permaculture with this book. So I'm pretty excited to see the new updated version with all of the things that Rose's been talking about. I'm really excited to just get an updated version and be able to share, even more current and relevant material.
Yeah. What are some of the things that Natural Systems Permaculture are doing in the permaculture world right now?
Well, I'm teaching PDC, usually 1 or 2 a year. I'm designing, and I mean, my background was in sort of landscaping, so I'm also doing quite a bit of implementation work on the ground as well.
Fantastic. Now, Ro, do you have any questions or any thoughts from either of you for Kushala?
Yeah, I think for teachers coming on board, they're going to find permaculture more dense than they did before from the new book. So Kushala, for example, we separate domestic water and then we do rural water. And in the rural water, environmental water, we're looking about getting water back into water tables, into aquifers, into wetlands. We're looking at bigger issues around water that weren't covered in the original courses. And then, of course, you've got new topics as well, and things such as coastal permaculture. We've put in some designs for ports and cities, and we've put in designs for re-establishing coast, and we've made a first effort at zoning a coastal area from a city like Sydney and perhaps a port, going up and down the coast into fairly pristine land, almost zones 1 to 5. And then what you can do there, when you think of the islands, you think of a third of the world's people, 3 billion, live within 100 kilometres of the sea. I can see that having been neglected. But the other thing is, everything that happens to the sea, which is pretty terrible, starts on land. And for years, as permaculturists up here in the mountains, we haven't said, don't drop anything on the ground, it's going to end up in the Pacific. And so, thinking like a Hawaiian, the river starts at the top of the mountain. Permaculture designers and talkers now need to show if they're 5,000 kilometres inland, they are starting to think about what the impact of their work will be on the ocean, because all ocean destruction comes from land, whether it's a ship that pushes out from harbour or whatever it is. So let's come back to the 30% of land and consider how we're stuffing up 70% of the world's surface from this small land base, which is the continents. That's probably a bit dense, but my thinking was we're ignoring a lot of people under huge threat by not taking this on. And as designers, we need to know what's happening as a result of our design in the water cycle, where we are and where it's going to end up. That's just an idea, Costa. There are probably other things, but I won't go into them now. And the other thing, Kushala, we're moving from me to we. So if you're doing your home sector analysis, consider what's happening in your street, on your ridge, in your neighbourhood, and also consider what happens from what you do outside afterwards. We've always said what happens from outside in. Now what happens from inside out? What blows over the fence, what moves, what gets hurt, what's damaged, what's learned. So we're very much moving. I would ask a group of students now, what will be the impact of your design on your area that you nominate? So moving from me to we, because me is very Western. We is not Middle Eastern or African. We is Middle Eastern and African. It's a better way to start thinking in permaculture. Where we all have impacts. What are going to be the consequences? How can we make them stronger? There's some of the things you might find useful. I'm not sure. See how you go. Let me know. Stay in contact.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Ryan. And I do have a particular interest in water, and I do just feel so strongly that it is such a central part of everything to do with permaculture and the task ahead of us. And also, I guess, what I've also been sensing in recent times is that what you're referring to is just grassroots community building. And I was also interested in a comment you made earlier about the importance of disaster planning for our local area that we're in our design. And that I think is really important as well. So thank you for that. And I'm really excited and honoured to kind of be in such a STEM company and to be able to make some contribution towards this book and the getting it out into the world.
I think I see books as a need, fulfilling a need and a service to the community for something that's valuable for everyone. So it's sort of a service. It's 2 years servitude, really, isn't it, Rob, Jessica? To the community to do it.
Yes, indeed.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your contribution as a partner, Kushala, and for anyone wanting to connect, he will be running a PDC in September, which is only a couple of months away. So you can find all the links on some of the comments from here in. So thanks for being a part of the project, Kushala, and for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Costa, and thanks, Ro, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kushala.
Now, we are, so everyone, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your contributions. It's been wonderful to be able to share your comments up on the screen as they go, and for your input and considerations to be visual for everyone in this conversation. Now, I realise we are just a little bit behind because of those early technical issues. So we're sort of probably about 10 to 15 minutes. We were due to finish at about 20 past. So I think we just need a little bit longer to go through and just bring in our final guests. And we've got one more song from Charlie, and there's a couple of other partners that I will be thanking, as you'll see on the banners as we go along. Thank you, Cheryl Garson, for your comment. It has been very informative and inspiring indeed. And Ali Tebandeki, thank you for your comments and for following and being a part of the conversation with us. Again, you can contribute here. We'll go for a little update on where we're at with the fundraising shortly. But at this point, I'd just like to acknowledge that we also have with us, I'm just trying to find my my notes here. Matt, I'm just not sure. Is Matt here? I'm not sure if Matt's with us. Is Matt with us? I'm not sure. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring David and Sue in. And here they are. David and Sue, welcome.
Hi.
Great to be here.
Lovely, lovely.
Hello, Sue.
Hi. Hey, Ro. At last. We're at the end. Got there. Yoo-hoo!
We got there. Got the book done. Yeah.
Now, David, from Melliodora's Publishing's point of view, tell us a little bit about how you see the project and how you feel about the Earth Restorers Guide going forward from here.
Well, it's quite difficult in a way, Costa, because in a lot of ways it's a new book. It's obviously built on the lineage, and in some ways it's an update, but and that's partly why the project has been so big, and it's been a long journey. And apart from the deep appreciation for the Melliodora team, the colleagues, the partners, and the contributors, really like to thank Ro for having the faith in Melliodora Publishing and Permaculture Principles distribution, rather than choosing more conventional publishing and distribution opportunities. I suppose all those others promise reaching a wider audience through the global logistics systems, and that's tempting for any really committed activist like Ro certainly is. But Melliodora Publishing and Permaculture Principles is the only option for those who want to stand clear of supporting Amazon and the other unethical online corporations that are fighting to control everything we need and want. So in addition, I might say that MelPub probably grants its free spirit authors more autonomy than maybe other publishers. And we still don't know if our tiny David and Goliath experiment can succeed in getting this book and other permaculture authors out there to the widest world. But we can guarantee that with some of the help from our friends, like we've experienced in this do-it-yourself crowdfunding campaign, we're giving it a damn good go. So with book distribution in the US now in place, Earth Restorer's Guide may be the book that really shows there is a fair share alternative to Amazon for selling and buying books. So really appreciate what Ro has done with this, and of course incredible work and support from Jessica and Rob's incredible illustrations.
Thanks.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
Anything you'd like to add to that, Ro?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell the truth now.
Well, look out. Is this on you, David?
Melliodora was saying, we'll just make a third edition and you can add a few sentences to each chapter. I said, I don't want to do that. I want to write experience I've had for the past 20 years. And they'd say, but we thought you agreed to just write 6 lines or words at the end of each chapter. I'd say, oh, I don't think so. I want to write more. And we had several discussions. This is for budding authors, so you don't have to review. But the thing is, an Australian publisher, a permaculture publisher, committed to paper, to local employment, for distribution that isn't Amazon. And I'll tell you, the publishing world, the big commercial one, is pretty difficult and hard because I've been with them. And it's been wonderful to work with a committed group of people who are trying to carry this out. So, you know, we say it takes a community to get a book out, and it does. And I think it's been really brave of Melliodora not only to sort of swallow and say, well, okay, but stay with it right through. So it's really something. And Robert say, yeah, we're with a permaculture publishers, they're local, they're Australian, you know, they're ethical. And I'd say, but Simon and Schuster would sell it in 259 languages across the world in 5. And I'd come to the reality again, what are my ethics, and now do they go into public? I didn't actually, but, you know, we were aware that the decision is the one we all wanted. And I think, Jess, you were in on that too, weren't you? That decision about everything from editing to publishing to printing to distributing has been done clean. And that's profoundly satisfying. It really, really is. So thank you, David and Sue, and all the team there.
I'd like to pick up on that too, Ro. It's been amazing having our team to take this book from all the work that you've put in into its new written form, and that this would not have happened had we not had such a dedicated team, including Jess, who's gone over and beyond the call of duty in this area. And so a big call out to Jess over and above everybody else who has been absolutely fantastic as well. So in that, then, we have come to the end of that stage of things, and now we're in the midst of getting the printing done, and that is very exciting too. And these you folk who are out there watching us here, and all those who have donated so far, have just showed us what our permaculture mob is made of. Thank you so much to you all out there, and you fill our hearts with joy, and we hope that Ro's new book will fill yours as well. There's a lot of new material in there, so it's, the Earth User's Guide, not just updated. There's a stack of new stuff there for everybody. So thanks, everybody, and enjoy the book when you get it.
Thanks a lot, Sue.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Sue.
David.
Thanks, David.
Can I just say, I've worked in publishing for 20 years now, and never have I ever gotten a gift from a publisher that was dried homegrown garlic, morello cherries in preserves, Melliodora label. Thank you so much, guys. I was so touched. Homemade preserves. I've never ever received such a thoughtful gift. So it's been such a pleasure working with you guys. Thank you so much.
That's fantastic to see that currencies can take all different shapes and forms.
We'll accept morello cherries.
I definitely like that currency. Now I just had a little bit of a look at our updated fundraising, and we have reached, wait for it, I'm just giving a shout out to our partner Permaculture Principles there, but our latest figure is, where are we? We've crossed through the $34,000 mark. So we're 34,100. So that only leaves a couple more thousand to reach. Oh no, actually it's 31,150. So we're only we're less than 6,000. We're 5,000 and a bit dollars away from reaching the printing mark over to the US, which is just brilliant. Big thanks, everyone. That actually makes me so happy. I think we need to go to a song because I can't contain myself. And I think Charlie Mgee will contain that emotion by putting on a song. Charlie,
I'm back.
Where are you? There you are. Take us to a tune, please.
Look, I was going to play another one, but I think this situation deserves the integrate rather than segregate principle from my album Permaculture Rhymer's Manual, based on David's book. It's great to see you, Dave and Sue. That you've been a big inspiration of my work as well as Rose. So I'm surrounded by, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here, and this is a song that encapsulates it. I think, Get Together, which is exactly what we've done here. You know, from the publishing to the writing to the collaboration to the editing to Costa to the partners. Should I just run through them really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
We've got the Permaculture Education Institute, thanks Morag, Learn Beekeeping Naturally, Milkwood, Natural Systems Permaculture Design Course in June 2022, Happen Films, where have we gone? Oh, there they are. Castlemaine Permaculture Hubs, Weekend PDC, Good Brew, Dino, Organic Living, kombucha and Sparkling Probiotics, Peace Farm, thanks Matt, Permaculture Principles, thanks Richard, Permaculture Victoria, the Permaculture Podcast, Good on You Scott Man, and Permacoach, which is Permaculture at Your Place. These are all people, folks, that have made it happen. This isn't just a bunch of logos on a page. I know most of these people personally. They're all as committed to the cause as you and I, and it's just beautiful to be part of this community. So without further ado, this is Get Together. I see you there on your own, and I don't know what you're doing all alone. There's not enough time in this life to be wrapped up in your own thing, thinking about your own thing. I said wrapped up in your own thing, thinking about your own thing. Well, I've got an idea of some things to do, but they'd be 10 times better better if I did them with you. So why don't you come over here and we'll make them happen with a bit of inspiration and collaboration. Yeah, let's get together. Well, all my people in the neighborhood, well, we've lived here so long, what's going on? Don't even know your names or what you do. But with a little bit of effort, we can make community. Yeah, I said with a little bit of effort, we can make community. Yeah, let's get together. Let's get together. Well, let's get it together. Let's get together. Thanks, folks. You can have more permaculture music from the album Permaculture Rhymer's Manual, Formidable Vegetable. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks, Costa. Thanks, Ro and Jess and everyone involved in the Earth Restorer's Guide. I'm so excited to get my copy and UN endorsement. How good is that? You're all amazing.
Huge.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks very much, Charlie.
And thanks to all those
Yeah.
legends up on the
We
screen.
love
Seriously,
you.
check them out. They're all a bunch of champions.
Oh, here, yes, all wonderful champions indeed. And thank you for mentioning them. We've been celebrating them throughout the broadcast and thanking them for their involvement and backing of this project all the way. So thanks, Charlie. What a treat!
Not too late to back the project. What are you at? 34,150. There's still 5 minutes left, folks. Get on the link. Maybe Costa can post it. Chuck in 10, 20, 50 bucks, 500 bucks, and you get to have a chat with Ro by yourself or with 5 other people. How good's that? Go and do it now. Now's your chance.
Exactly. We're at 34,350. So it's edging along really nicely. And of course, the other thing, everyone, is whether you've been watching this on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever, whichever platform you've been catching it, feel free to push the share button so that other people will see these links and be able to go out there and share the fundraising portal, and we can reach that 40K. I'm confident that we can reach that 40K and send the book off to an entirely new continent and drive the messages of Ro far and wide. Look, we are literally at 8:40. I figured, so we've got a few comments coming in from the crowd. Thanks for that's you, Charlie. Here we go. Thanks, Charlie. Your music rocks my soul, and that's from Beth Brewster. It rocks all of our souls.
Yes, indeed.
Beth. Now, I just wanted to bring our other contributors and supporters in. Morag, come back onto the stage with us. I think who else was there? Rob, you're in. Osti,
Yeah.
jump in. You've been instrumental in helping. This is Osti, everyone. He's been instrumental in getting all the different platforms linked so that we could project this out onto as many different broadcast stages as we could. So a big thanks to Osti.
And the magician of do-it-yourself crowdfunding.
Project partner. Yeah. Well done, Osti. I think. Can you put the fundraiser link in the description below? There it is. There's the fundraiser link right there. I will just put that up on the screen, and anyone watching, you can get it straight out of the comments bar, and I'll put it at the top of the comments bar on the Facebook posts as well, so everyone will be able to see it and share it. Now, final word around the room. Charlie, I believe you have to go, so I'll start with you, Charlie. So I suppose that's 9 o'clock, and then I'll go round in a clockwise direction. But starting with you, Charlie, let me fill the screen with your dial so that the crowd can appreciate it. Take it away, Charlie.
What do you want me to say? Thanks to everyone. I've said it all. There's nothing more to say. I'm so grateful for you legends, and good on you for bringing this book into the 21st century like it deserves to be.
Oh, thanks, Charlie.
And if anyone's in Karratha, I've got a gig tomorrow at the Karratha Community Garden, so there you go. Shameless plug. Come along.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I was coming around, in case there was anything you wanted to share with the community.
Yes.
Look, this
Charlie,
your
music
gig.
needs to go everywhere.
All right, we're coming up here to that. Looks like Rob up in the top corner over there. Rob, what would you like to say to Ro and the project? Oh, hang on, I lost you.
Rob just dropped out.
Yeah, there you are.
Coming back. Oh,
Back?
Where's he gone? Yeah,
Here I am. Okay, look, thanks, Costa. No, look, I'd like to say thanks to Ro for having the confidence in me to illustrate such a big work and such a incredible work with all your experience and just all the conversations that we had during the production of the book. You know, I learned a lot. So thanks very much, Ro. And thank you, Jess, too, for your support too. You gave me a lot of encouragement, as well as fixing all my spelling mistakes, of which there were a lot. Yeah, it's been an amazing project to be part of, especially being part of it right from the start, from the first edition, and seeing the progression coming through to this latest book. So that's been a real privilege to be part of that. So thanks again. And thank you to Melliodora, David and Sue, and Richard, and Beck, and Emma, and Brielle, for all the work that you've put in too to the production of the book. I don't know how you did it, actually. I don't know how you squeezed all those illustrations in. But, you know, you've been really good to work with too, so thank you very much. And thank you, Costa, for tonight, for hosting it.
Oh, no worries. No worries, Rob. There's nothing like a few hiccups just to sit you on the edge of your seat when you lose everyone and suddenly you're talking about the book. And that's not a problem. The problem was more that everyone was here to see Ro, and Ro was sort of just had just been vaporized by the internet, and it was like, oh, okay. But fortunately, I had Charlie, which was the ultimate go-to, because if ever you're in doubt, go to a song, and if the song fails, go to a dance, and if a dance fails, go to an interpretive dance, and then if all else fails, call in Morag or whoever else is on the screen to fill it in. So yeah, thanks a lot, Rob. Where am I? I'll come round to Jess here. Where's Jess, so I can put you up on the full screen, Jess? Well, final thought.
Final thought. Yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Ro and Rob, and just being such a brilliant team to work with. It's been such an honour. To all the Melliodora team, to Beck and Richard and David and Sue, and it's just been amazing, amazing experience. Just to say that, you know, this makes a huge difference to people's lives. I'm working with farmers in East Africa at the moment, and we use this every day. And it's so, so exciting. Big shout out to my guys at Guatemala. permacultureuganda.org. Yay. So, yeah, making differences across the world. So very exciting and making huge differences to people's lives. It's real, it's happening, and it's happening now. It's really exciting to bring it to people.
Thank you, Jess. Now, Richard, I realised that you were tucked away. Richard Telford, everyone, was tucked away behind this portal, and I didn't realise you were there until there was a comment of like Richard, and I was going, "Where's Richard? I can't see Richard anywhere." And then there was this tiny little corner of the screen, and I sort of lifted it, and I go, "Oh, there's Rich." So, I appreciate that you've been patiently waiting there. Have a word about the book and your final thought.
Oh, it's been great to bring this back home from the UK. When I found out that this was living and being published in the UK, I was really keen to bring that back home and make it available locally. And finally being able to actually, produce a new edition with Ro and the team. It's been great. A long journey. It's been probably 6 years, 7 years we've been kind of working on this in the background. So fantastic. And it's great to see that support from the permaculture community to help make this a reality. So thank you, everyone.
Wow. Thanks for putting it into that perspective, Richard, because when someone suddenly sees it just pop up as this thing's happening on Thursday night, jump in and, this book is being, republished and all that. And you just think, oh yeah, that's nice. I should get that. And then you talk about 6 years of conversations and interactions and emails and ideas. And that is a really lovely way to put a bow on the reality. And as was mentioned by Ro, it's about the we, and this really is a project that has involved a big. Actually, I won't say that because that might sound funny. A project that's involved a big we. Yes, let's. And I think I'm going down a tricky road I won't get out of if I keep using the darling. Yeah, that cup of tea sort of. Thanks, Richard. That was. I really appreciated hearing that at this wrap-up stage, because it just sets a context for everyone who's orbiting it but not part of it to understand that beyond the editors, beyond the illustrators, beyond the publishers, beyond the transport people, there's a lot go on to make it happen. So thanks.
Especially Emma O'Dell, who put together the artwork too, who took on my previous role to actually bring it all together as a bring the layout together, and Beck Lowe, who's been amazing, really amazing in bringing all this together as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks, Rich. I appreciate your timely sentiments. Meg is just adding to the festival of the we. I'll park that one. Otherwise, I'll head into dad joke territory. Morag, final thought.
Yeah, thanks, Costa, and thanks to the team that have brought this into being. 6 years, I didn't realize you'd been doing it that long. It's amazing. And thank you, Ro, in particular, for bringing something out that is so relevant to so many more people that we work with around the world, and also for getting it to the point of the UN endorsement as well. I know we've talked about UN endorsements for various things for a lot of conversation. So that's absolutely brilliant. And every person who does a course in the Permaculture Education Institute is going to be recommended to get one of these books. I might even actually just give them one as a gift as doing at one of our courses, I think. So yeah, I wonder if you're ever thinking about doing an online version so I can kind of like buy and distribute them to places where they just can't get books. Is that on the cards?
We can always talk about everything.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everyone. It's just, and I'm so delighted to have the chance to be a project partner with this. It's just, it's one of those things that's part of that being part of the we of this community that, if we can't support one another to make this come out, these things just don't get to be quite as possible. So, yeah, I'm really thrilled to have that chance to do that. Thank you, Ro.
Thanks, Morag. David and Sue?
Yeah, well, Costa, I really want to thank you too, as the magician that can juggle so many balls and just jump from one thing to another, and have been a constant support in so many of the creative things happening in the permaculture world and helping them get out further. So I really wanted to do that in saying, when we were discussing all this with Osti, and could we really ask Costa to do us another favour on this? And of course, it's a special privilege to be able to support and really acknowledge and boost Ro's work out into the world as one of the great permaculture pioneers and inspirers of so many people in our own local world, in the Blue Mountains, round Australia, and all over the world in some of the toughest places that she's worked. So, yeah.
And I'm glad that tonight a lot of people have got to meet you, Ro, and to see who you are and to be inspired by you just on the screen. It's a real pleasure to see you again and to have taken your work on and to be able to bring it into the world in its new form, new, bigger and better form. Thank you so much. And thank you to Charlie also, as well as Costa. Charlie's always there to bring us a song, to bring us enthusiasm, and as much as you do to Costa. Thanks again.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, David. Well, look, that brings us around the block to Ro. Unless, is there anything you want to add, Osti? Oh, hang on. I've just got to. I think there's a bit of. There's the only.
There
one,
we go.
One.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, go for it.
A very quick thank you to you, Costa, and thanks for your patience and thanks for your swearing today with the technology and us in there trying to get all this to work. No, it's usually me doing that, so it was great that someone else was doing it today. And yeah, a really big thank you to Charlie as well for jumping in and being involved. And I really want to thank the rest of the Melliodora Holmgren design crew who are in the background tonight working. Katie and Kathy, and Catherine's actually got COVID, yet she's still in there working and helping us out. And Brielle's there behind the scenes as well tonight. So yeah, really big thank you to everyone for being part of this.
Thanks, Osti. And final word, Ro.
Oh, well, I can't say anything more because you've said it all. However, there's a group of people, and the Vietnamese say you don't do anything on your own ever. And I remember when Frank Sinatra's song came out, I did it my way. I thought you bleeding didn't. At some time and place when you needed it. But I would like to thank people who are not here. I want to thank all the Vietnamese who I started teaching permaculture. You know, Vietnam didn't have one bridge. Vietnam had 37 cars. It didn't have a post office. They found an old Jeep and they said they'd like permaculture to help rebuild. The time I was in Cambodia and the Khmer were taking me garden to look and understand on the back of the little blue motorbikes and sleeping on a desk at night outside the fish market because the Khmer Rouge were there, I was getting more and more personally grateful for what they gave and how they looked at permaculture. And they were far less, I think about this and do it tomorrow, but let's do it now. This is important. There are some sad things. So there's not one permaculturalist working in Afghanistan today. I taught there for years. We're getting the first NGOs going and things happening. They're not there. But they are starting to write things and send things from exile, from hidden areas. We've just done an emergency gardens thing that's being translated into Dari and Farsi. They're waiting on the book. The Indians want the book. The Bangladeshi want the book. These are people for whom permaculture is more than an interest. It's actually a way into leading and having a better life in the ways they believe in. So I have to thank all the people who contributed to me as a funnel where it all came out. And I think I could do no less than offer back the distilling of that knowledge to everyone else wherever they are. I think it's not about what I think and do. It's about this huge volume of global information and the desire for permaculture that comes through. And as I said, not a channel exactly, a bit of a funnel because I distill it as well. So thank you all tonight for believing in it, for talking, for laughing, for singing, being part of it. As we said, I think it takes a nation to produce a book, even more than a community. So thank you all individually and together. And I think we're moving well from me to we. Thank you. Thank you, Costa.
Well, thank you for a wonderful final word there, Ro. What a fantastic evening it's been, from Charlie opening it to Ro closing it with those special words. To everyone here on the screen who have given their final thoughts, thank you all, and of course to everyone at home or wherever you are tuning in, watching this live. Thank you for staying with us, and to anyone watching the replay, thank you for being a part of the support of this project that will be charging ahead long after I push end broadcast in a moment. So keep an eye out. You'll find the links that you need to continue the support of the project to get it up to that figure of 40K to reach the publishing mark in the US. And I'm happy to say that the final mark, we've reached $35,000. So that's a very short step to make that $40,000. I'm sure we'll reach that once we all share this out there on our platforms, and that 40K will be reached in no time. So on behalf of Ro and all of the team who have spoken today, big thanks for the chance to orchestrate this as best I could, and may the project go into print, but most of all, get out there and get ripped, grubbied and torn pages in the hands of people using this information that has decades and decades of legacy building already behind it, and this will push it into many decades ahead. So the Earth Restorer's Guide, look out for it, share this broadcast, and keep an eye out for developments as they come through online. So from me here on Gadigal land of the Eora, I wish you all a good night, and thanks for being involved.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Costa.
Bye.
Night.
Thanks, Costa. Good night, everyone.
Sleep well. Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Ro.
you.
Love you all.
Bye. See